Hey there, welcome to my channel, or welcome back if this is not your first video. It is episode 2 of my series called Inside the Abroad Life. Today is basically a story time of how I traveled from London to Birmingham without having an accommodation, my first time on a train, all the plenty JJC things that happened to me, because believe it or not, no matter how exposed you think you are, no matter how sophisticated you think you are, once you travel abroad, you will have your JJC moments, but you will definitely look back on them and laugh like I'm about to do in today's video. Remember in the previous episode, I talked about having to quarantine before I could leave the house. So within those 10 days, I was getting ready for school, responding to my emails, just keeping in touch with people at school to let them know, what's going on, when I'll be resuming and all of that. Then I went with my mom to get a train ticket from London to Birmingham. It was a paper ticket. I think it was about £80 at that time. My brother had to escort me because I didn't know anywhere. Now that I think about it, people that came to the UK without like knowing anybody, having any support, I don't know how you guys did it. I don't know, because I'm grateful that I had that bit of support. Because I need a train that is going outside of London, there's only certain stations I can go to. I remember I had to travel from Houston, so my brother followed me from where we live to Houston, which is even quite a distance. He couldn't follow me to Birmingham. He just told me when we got to Houston, he said, look, make sure you get on the right train, because these trains are not your regular trains. The regular trains that go like within the city will stop maybe like every 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 2 minutes. But you see those interstate trains, once they stop and you miss your stop, the next time they're probably going to stop is maybe in an hour or 2 hours time. An hour if you're lucky. So it's not the kind of train that you get on and you snooze because you blame yourself. I remember I couldn't even sleep on the plane. Anytime I catch myself sleeping, I'll be like, hey, wake up, wake up, wake up. My ears were at alert. And that's the good thing about that country. They will write it, they will say it. So all your senses have to be working. You have to be looking at the screens. You have to be listening to the announcements. In their defense, if you cannot hear, at least you can see. You'll be able to do one of those two things, right? They'll always try to make things easier in that way. So I was sitting, I was watching, I was listening, just to make sure that I did not miss my stop. I was curious about Birmingham because when I told my boss at that time, before I traveled, that I was going to Birmingham, she was like, I've been to Birmingham, I didn't like it. Don't go to Birmingham. But me that want to jackpot, I say, Ma, I'm going to Birmingham. That's the That's the first school that gave me admission. I don't have time to waste and be waiting for other schools, because I think I'd applied to Hertfordshire and some other schools, and they gave me like conditional offers. They were asking for IELTS and all those other plenty. I just said, look, I'm going to the first school that's giving me an unconditional offer. So I was like curious. Okay, let's see what Birmingham is like, right? So I was on a train. Thankfully, I got to Birmingham in one piece, got out of the train station, city center. I'm like, okay, it's not that bad. It's nice as well. I had a big box and a bag, right? When I got out of the train station, I checked on Google Map. I wasn't so far from the school, but there's no way I'm dragging that box all the way. It was like I think it was less than 10 minutes walk, yeah? I was like, there's no way that I'm dragging my box for 10 minutes on the street. So I requested an Uber. My mom gave me one of her cards. So I requested an Uber, I paid for it, it dropped me in front of school. I took my box to school. Guys, I was going from one registration point to another with my box. So and the way registration is like, oh, you go upstairs for this, you go to this room for that, you go to that building for that. So it's like different places, right? So I kept dragging my box all around. The good thing about that place is that nobody cares. So nobody said anything to me. Nobody was looking at me. I didn't feel weird. They probably understood that this is an international student, right? I dragged my box all through the whole school. Mind you, this registration that I'm doing, when I finish, I don't know where I'm going to sleep. While I was in London, I was already talking to to different people about accommodation. I wanted to stay in the school accommodation. It was quite expensive, but I was like, maybe I'll just stay, right? Then I started looking properly on the website. I found some apartments that are not owned by the school or managed by the school, but they are student apartments, right? So I reached out to, it was a student union that posted it. So I reached out to them and they said, okay, that I can come for a viewing on so day. I said, okay, no problem. That day, that viewing day was the day that I was doing my registration and everything. Me, that I don't know Me, I don't know any will. I don't know what I'm doing. Right. So I couldn't meet up with the viewing, because first of all, I was still registering, and then I didn't even know anywhere. And I was like, I cannot carry this box and be going up and down. Do you understand? So I said, okay, let me look for the student union office, right? I found the office and I went there. I said, okay, this. I'd been talking to somebody, to view an apartment. As I was talking, the guy that was supposed to show me the apartment walked in. I was like, oh, the person was a no-show. And I was like, sorry, that was me. He was like, what are you doing here? Like, why didn't you come to see the apartment? I was like, I don't know how the buses work. I don't know, where I'm going. So I couldn't make it anyway. So I asked him, I said, are you assuring me that what I'm seeing online, that is exactly what the house looks like? He was like, yeah. And I said, okay, I'm going to trust you guys and I'll pay. So I called my mom. Thank God for my mom. She paid. And then they started saying, oh, we have not received a lot. We have not been able to confirm. And this thing I'm saying is, it was already going like past 4. I can't even travel back to London at that time again because I don't know anywhere. Let me keep emphasizing, right? So I called my mom. I said, oh, they haven't gotten the payments. My mom was like, it's a UK bank account or UK bank account. Please confirm these payments. My daughter does not have anywhere to sleep this night. You see, the power of moms is a universal language. My mom called them and said, look, it's now like 5 past 5. She's coming from London. She cannot go back to London and she has no place to sleep. So you people should sort this thing out. Anyway, I took my box. School had now closed by that time. So I took my box and, and everything. And I got another Uber to take me to the address of the place. At this point, my mom was receiving, this is the second Uber alert. She called me. She said, where do you think you are? Where do you think you are that you're entering Uber anyhow? Don't let me see any Uber charge on that card again. I was like, mommy, just chill. I don't know how to use the buses, and I've been through a lot. I've dragged my box all through trying to register and trying to just find my way around today. Just pardon me for today. When I got to the place, I was like, I now understand why this place is cheap. Anyway, I was standing outside with my box looking around. It looks like I had gone from the city to another part of town, right? I said, okay, at least it's cheap, at least it's affordable, Abi. So I waited for the guy. The guy eventually drove down. He opened the gate. So there's an automatic gate, an electric gate, sorry. And then there's a door with a security code that leads to the house. And then when you get to your flat, there's another security code to open your flat. And then when you get to your room, there's a key. That kind of card that hotels use. That's the kind of key that it was. So there's no way you're getting in that place if you don't live there. I got in. I liked it. It was like an ensuite apartment. I had my own toilet and bathroom and my little room. It was a cozy room. And then I had to share like the living space with how many other rooms? I think we were 6 on that floor. At that time, I think we're just 2 that were around, and I hadn't even seen him. That's how that place is. You might be living with someone and not even see the person. But I knew there was someone else there because like there was stuff in the fridge. He too used to say he knew that there was someone around, but he had not seen me. So the next day, I wore my clothes. Did everything, went to school. This is where my JJC mistakes start to happen. I was not informed about layering. Nobody told me about layering outfits. So I wore my sweatshirt just the way it is. And I wore my little coat and my trousers. And I wore, so it's like a sandal. The toe is not open, no. It's covered, but the back is open. But even at that, what was I thinking? In September. Hey, God. I wore that. And then I didn't layer my outfits. I just, carried myself to school. It was a nice day at school. I had fun, I got to meet my lecturers. I realized that I was even the first international student to resume. Serious student. I too like school. The lecturers talked to us, just introduced themselves. I got to know my classmates that were around at that time. And the school, you are in a building, right? So there's heating. You don't really know what's happening in the world. You don't know what's happening outside. Okay, now for me to go home. Oh, prior to that, so on my way to school, I had to do 2 buses to school. I got on the first bus, and for some reason I was fine because I think I was getting to the last bus stop, right? So I was fine. Everybody got off the bus. The second one I was supposed to pass through where my school is, right? I somehow I forgot about. So on the bus there's a red button that you press when you want to get off. I forgot about it. Remember that when I was in London, I was in quarantine, so I didn't learn anything. The only time I entered bus was from the airport home, remember, and it was my mom that pressed the button, But I didn't even remember that. I put my school address on my map and I was just looking at the stops. When I got to my bus stop, I just walked straight to the door, and the driver was looking at me like, "You're right, mate. Are you okay?" And I was like, I want to get off. He was like, "You got to press the button. You got to press the button." And I was like, so embarrassing. And he didn't even slow down. The guy was just driving. I went like two stops after the stop I was meant to stop. Anyway, I got down. I started using Google Map. I checked the remaining. I said, okay, no problem. First day of school, it's a learning something, right? So I went to school. I had fun that day. It was a great day. So going back home now, for some reason, I entered the wrong bus, right? I just don't know what I did. I entered the wrong bus. I entered two wrong buses. So I entered the first wrong bus, I got off. I entered the second wrong bus, I got off. So there's this thing in England where you have bus stops, right? Two bus stops on opposite sides can have the same name. So there's coming and then there's going. So depends on where you are going. That will determine where you are standing. So I just mixed up the buses. I ended up getting lost. At this time, remember I said it's September, it was already getting dark because I spent a lot of time getting lost. Rain now started falling. Me with my open toe, not open toe, me with my sandal and my no layers and tiny coats. Rain started falling. I was like, hey God, my battery was low, was running low. I was like, I need to figure out this thing before this phone dies. If not, I'm in trouble. Anyway, I stood at the bus stop, I was shivering. At this time, I was already cold. There was one Indian guy there. He was like, are you okay? I was like, yes, but I'm cold. He now offered me alcohol. I was like, ew, ew. I got on a bus. I was able to eventually find the right bus after going up and down. I got on the bus. When I now got to my area, right? I knew that I was in my area, but I couldn't find the house. Remember, I'd only slept in that house for one night, so I'm not familiar with the roads. And I came back home too late because it was already dark at this point. So I'm walking. At this point, my phone is on 1%. I know that if I press it, it will die, right? So I was just like, hey, God, Holy Spirit, help me, help me. What am I going to do if I get lost? By this time of the night, I can't even call anybody. Who do I want to call? I don't have anybody's number at that point. I had not met even my flatmates at that point. So I was just, okay, going. I think the way I was walking, a car stopped and was like, are you okay? It was dark inside the car, so I didn't see anybody's face. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm okay. Maybe say I don't lost. But I was thinking, let me not say just because it's UK, I should go and trust people and enter their car. Bad things happen in the UK as well. So I said, I'm fine. They were like, okay, they drove off. I started walking. By God's grace, I was able to find the house. I found the house. At this point, I'm cold, tired, hungry, frustrated because I had not even done grocery shopping. So I didn't even have food at home. The only thing was I ate at school. But what do you want to eat at school? It was snacks, right? So I hadn't had anything. I hadn't eaten anything substantial. So I got to the house. I climbed the stairs, got up, opened the door. Immediately I entered the room. I just sat on the floor and I started crying. I was like, it was very short, but I needed it. I needed to just like cry it out. Then I called my mom. My mom was like, don't worry, you get used to everything. You think I didn't get lost when I first got here? Don't worry, with time to get better. And then I felt a bit better. I took my bath and then I slept. The next day, I was already, getting better at navigating the road. I was able to find my school easily. I had sense this time. Even though I did not have boots, I had sneakers. I wore sneakers with 2 socks, I called my mom. I said, you see this tiny coat? Call it work. I need money. Send me money for a proper coat. So he sent me money. I went to H&M to get coats. And I started saying, okay, now we're talking. I was already getting used to the transport system. But look, no one talks about the anxiety of navigating the public transport system in the UK. Like, we don't talk about it enough. Like, the anxiety, gosh. For the longest time, I was afraid to get on trains. I would rather use a bus because my idea of trains, my idea of trains were like, you can get on the wrong one. You can find yourself very quickly far, far, far away from where you're going because trains are fast, right? So a 3 minutes ride on a train can be like a 40 minutes bus journey or a 50 minutes bus journey. So I was just scared of trains. I'm like, I'm not getting on trains until I really understand how they work. We have come to the end of today's video. Let me know if you liked it. Drop a comment, share, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.